Hello everybody, how are you? I am Cindy and I'm here on my music page, and I would like to just talk a little bit about playing and sitting at the computer are kind of two similar things, especially depends on what instrument you play, but as musicians it's very physical, and especially holding brass instruments, because with horn there's a lot of weight in awkward places, as is with like trombone and probably the way that you hold tuba, baritone, euphonium, and other instruments as well. But also when you add that to teaching online and typing on the computer and probably hunching over a little bit and teaching on Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever you're doing, FaceTime, you build up a lot of tension, even if you're not sitting and playing as much, just doing some of these other things at the computer that maybe you weren't doing quite as much, and then also sitting and playing and sitting and teaching. So I try to stand a little bit when I can stand and practice, but I can't always stand and teach right now the way that I'm currently set up. So I am not a doctor, I am not a physical therapist, but how many of you have had tightness or pain from just all these things playing and otherwise that you do? Let me know below. So I'm going to share two stretches for now. I have tons more, but I'm going to share two today that will just help stretch and release a little bit of tension that you may have. Now there's tons more that I could show you. So if you want to know what they are, stay tuned, because I'm going to show you now. But if you're interested in notes from this broadcast, then type #show notes. I'll be happy to get that to you. So just out of curiosity, if you're a musician, what instrument do you play? And now, what you play, do you also teach the same instrument, or do you teach other instruments? Let me know below. And if you want the notifications from this, you can press the notification bell so that you know when I'm going to be live. But every Friday at 11 o'clock, I'm going to be live sharing various tips and things with you. Now this might be useful for pretty much anyone that's at a computer or doing anything, but I especially like sharing it with musicians because I think sometimes we forget, we're so focused on practicing that we also need to focus on like our physical well-being, right? And one of those things we can do is to maybe stretch beforehand, before we play, and stretch after. And I talk to my students a little bit about this when I see there's weird things going on with how they're sitting or holding their instrument, and I want to try to catch them as soon as I can. So teaching online is a little different. Sometimes it's a little harder to catch stuff, but I'm still been able to correct some things. And so one of the things I tell them is to stretch and do things. I try to share tips with them. One of the ones I'm going to share with you today is a doorway stretch, a wall stretch. So have any of you done those before? Hi, thanks for tuning in. Have you done any stretching, any doorway stretches? That's what I'm going to share with you today. Real simple. It's maybe good to warm up a little bit. So you could do something simple like arm circles or marching in place, or just a little bit of warm up so you're not totally cold when you stretch, because it's not good to stretch when you're completely cold, like just wake up out of bed, or even just after you've been sitting for a long period of time. You do want to like move a little bit, have a little bit of movement before you stretch. Okay, so the first one, and if you are watching now or on the replay, comment below and let me know that you're here. I can't see you, who is there, unless you comment, and show me a little bit of love, a little likes. This helps our Facebook community be able to see this, and it shares it with more people. And I just want to help people. If I can help somebody, awesome. That's my goal. Okay, so simple stretch. See if I can bring this down. Now you won't see all of me, but so you want to get in a doorway, and you're gonna basically be like this. So make sure your shoulders are down and you're not like this. So one of the things you might do before you do this too is just up and relax, and up and relax. And that's, I have my students do that a lot because they tend to get like this, and that also means that maybe they're not breathing quite right too, so we work on that. Another thing you can do to loosen up is just really slow shoulder rolls. Now, if anything that I'm telling you to do doesn't feel good, then don't do it, or go to your doctor. Hi, David. So one of the stretches, it's very simple. It's in the doorway. Anybody can do this, but make sure you warm up a little bit, like even if it's just shoulder rolls, arm rolls, march in place, so you're not totally cold when you do this, because then you could, especially if you're older, you know, hurt yourself trying to stretch, which is, sounds weird, but it's true. Okay, so you're gonna be like this in the doorway. And you do that behind the door frame. And then you can't see my foot, but I step 1 foot forward. And you just lean into it as much as is comfortable. And make sure you breathe. In this case, you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you can hold it for anywhere from like 15 to 30 seconds. I kind of aim to do my stretches for 30 seconds, but if it doesn't feel good, then maybe you're not ready to do it as long, okay? And this will help you, like if you're at the computer, if you're playing an instrument where there's a lot of weight and you need to stretch out this part and this part of your back and neck. And then also, this other one is also a doorway stretch, but now you're reaching up. And so you could do this like individually at the door and have 1 foot forward. So if you didn't have a doorway and you just had a wall, you could do it there. And you just kind of lean into it and switch feet. Can you tell I can't talk today? Okay, so if you're doing it in the doorway, you're doing this, and then I put my other foot forward now, and it's the same thing. And anytime you're stretching, you want to make sure that you're breathing. And also with this particular stretch, you want to make sure that your shoulders are down and that you're not doing this, because that's going to create tension instead of release it. So those are just 2 simple stretches, and you can do them before you sit down and practice, after you sit down and practice, before you go to bed, after you get up from the computer. It doesn't matter. Even if it's just like 15 seconds, you can do it multiple times a day, right? So there's a lot of things beneficial that are very simple that will release a little bit of tension and just help you feel better in general. And then it'll also improve your playing if you're more relaxed, right? So that's like the biggest goal. Now, a lot of times when I'm correcting posture and things, it's because they're sitting and they're not breathing correctly and they're tight. So if we talk a little bit about breathing, let's see if I can move this. So let me know if this makes sense to you. Just chime in and tell me your thoughts, because a lot of you that are musicians also have like your own experience and ideas. And do you exercise or stretch? Because maybe a lot of you do yoga or something. Okay, so I was going to just talk a little bit about breathing, because as brass and wind players, we need to use our air down here instead of our air up here, where we shallow. If you're breathing from here, a lot of people that, even some musicians, they play, but then in like daily life, they're breathing there's shallow breathing, right? So part of the tension is released even just during the day if you're every so often pay attention to like how you're breathing and maybe just take some deep breaths. Now, if we breathe from up here, that's shallow. You're not filling up all the way down to your, now people call it diaphragm breathing. I'm just going to move this for a sec. And there's thoughts about that. There's like kind of old school thoughts about breathing. And if any of you are brass players, you've probably heard of like the famous Arnold Jacobs, who's, you know, efficiency in breathing is like the thing that he worked on as a tuba player and a teacher. So when you're shallow breathing, you're really not going to be able to play long tones, long phrases, and you're not going to be relaxed. And if you're shallow breathing, that's where some of the tension's going to start to creep in. But also if you're sitting or standing and you're not quite right with your posture and your instrument. So you have to really like kind of, that's where having a teacher is important, right? Okay, so diaphragmic breathing. Now our diaphragm is not, everybody talks about breathing from your diaphragm, but it's really a muscle, and you're really using your core muscles and your diaphragm is expanding with them, but it's not its own, you're not using just your diaphragm muscle per se. It's not something that you can see. So Arnold Jacobs has actually some really, there's some good old videos where he talks about this. So if I can find one, I'll put a link it here. But when you take a deep breath and you play a brass instrument, you want to play from down, breathe from down here. So you want to expand like you're blowing up a balloon or a beach ball. And I always tell my students, okay, put one hand on your back and one hand in the front and pretend that you're blowing up a big beach ball or an inner tube around you or something, and you're expanding, and it's expansive and elastic and stretchy. So you want to breathe, you don't want to go and see nothing expand, because then that means I'm only breathing from up here. And then a lot of times I see people breathe and they go, and they raise their shoulders, and I'm exaggerating a lot, but that's where tension creeps in. And even just playing our instruments, even if we're sitting properly, we can have tension because it's like a sport. Musicians are athletes to some extent. And breathing, so you want to breathe from all the way down to the bottom of your stomach and your core. And you want your back and the front of your core is all one muscle. There's all muscles groups attached to each other. And you want to breathe so they both expand. So as I release it, it maybe comes in a little bit. And don't feel like, so women were always taught like to suck it in and keep your tummy in, but you don't want to do that when you're breathing from your core and using your breath the correct way. And I'll probably do another video about this another time where I get more in depth about it and breathing. But I just want to talk about being relaxed and doing a couple stretches, and those were doorway stretches. And you could also do, actually both of them individually. So you could do this one individually too. If you just had a wall and not a doorway, that works. And you just put your opposite foot forward from the arm that's stretching. You don't want to do, raise your shoulders, keep your shoulders down. So I also at one point showed a neck videos, did a video with neck stretches. And that's another thing that you can do too. And there's very many variations on doing neck stretches, right? So, hi Dan. So besides neck stretches, there's these doorway stretches or individual wall stretches. And even if you're just typing a lot at the computer or doing something where you're sitting and you maybe get hunched over or whatever. I mean, I was just noticing at the sink, I'm cleaning dishes more. We're eating here all the time, right? Making more food. I'm cleaning more dishes. I'm like, hunched over. So it applies to everybody, not just musicians, I kind of believe. So so thank you for watching, and I hope this helps. I hope that you get something out of it. If you please comment below if you want me to give you the show notes, just kind of like a summary of what I talked about today. Just put hashtag show notes. Please like, please share. Maybe it'll help somebody else, even if you already knew all this. But like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I've just had a lot of physical therapy over the years, and I've also worked with personal trainers, so I have that experience as well. So, but my biggest thing is that if it hurts when you're doing it, then maybe that's not the right one for you to do. And then that's when, like, it's just like learning an instrument, and it's good to have a teacher kind of guide you. That's when maybe you go to a physical therapy doctor or whatever trainer or something that can kind of like guide you and make, you know, help you find like the one stretch or the one exercise that's going to work better for you. Usually the doctors are like your best bet. And I go to this really awesome place right now. But anyways, thank you for tuning in. Please like, please share. Let me know if you want the show notes. If you want to see if you want to know what the next stretches are, I can find that video and send that to you too. So have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you can practice or listen to awesome music today. Bye.